Warning, this video contains subject matter that may be triggering to the audience. Viewer discretion is advised. Here's part one of the two-part series of my domestic abuse story. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new, welcome. I'm Mistress Lotus, and today we're going to talk about domestic abuse. Now, I've been trying to do this damn video for like a good solid year, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So it's stressful, you guys, and the reason why I want to share this video is not to bash anyone. The reason I wanted to do this video is to not only be transparent with you guys about who I am and what I've been through and how I've overcome what I've been through, but this is also to be able to help myself get this off of my chest and be able to start completely fresh in my life. So I felt like it would be a great opportunity to finally be vulnerable and be open about my experiences with abuse. Now, we talk a lot about narcissism on this channel, and so before we even get into the story itself, I want you guys to know that this is not supposed to be, you know, like a pity party for me. This isn't supposed to be a smear campaign for anyone. This is purely for my own mental health, and this is for me to be able to clear my energy and to move forward in my life. So if anyone that I know or used to know stumbles across this video, just know that I'm not trying to start any drama. I'm just here to put out the truth. So with that being said, I want to get into the topic at hand. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. So around, let's say 2009, I got invited to go hang out with, you know, a friend of mine. We used to love chilling and smoking together, and so I got invited to meet up, you know, with another one of their friends. And so this is where this whole journey began. Around that time, I was about 16, going on 17, and I was still in school. This is when I wasn't living with my abusive father anymore. So I was just kind of winging life. You know, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I was just getting out there and having a good time. So I get to the house, and I actually invited one of my friends as well, so we could all just chill as a group, and, you know, we brought some beer, and everything was awesome. You know, I just remember when I got there, there was like over 20 people in this house. And mind you, the house wasn't that big, but it also wasn't that small either. So I'm looking at this sea of dudes, right? Like it was just all dudes. And keep in mind, you guys, I do chill with guys mainly because for some reason I just can't seem to find female friends that won't switch up or act funny or get all competitive. So anyway, so it was a sea of dudes, and I just remember, you know, I was rolling a blunt and we were just getting ready to crack open a couple of cold ones. And I just remember walking through the living room of this house, and I realized, damn, the friend that invited me here ain't even here, you know? And so I was just like, okay, well, maybe he's running late. So I decided to stay, and I happened to notice this guy. He had long blonde hair, you know, he had a headband, he had his little Abercrombie shirt on with these, you know, these light jeans, and he was hot. I'm not gonna lie. At that moment, I was like, damn, he almost looks like Wesley Scantlin off of Puddle of Mud, you know, the lead singer. So I was like, yes, bitch, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And I was trying to act like I didn't really see him, but I couldn't, like, turn away. So I was just kind of looking at him like, oh, no. And the funny part about this was he was looking at me the same way. So we locked eyes, and y'all, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, I did not believe in love at first sight, and I'm back to not believing in that shit. But at that moment, bitch, I was like, yes, this is love at first motherfucking sight. I like him. He's sexy as hell. He got that long hair going, you know. And so I was just like, wow. I don't know what to say. Like, my heart was beating. I felt butterflies. I was nervous as fuck. And I just remember him signaling for us to go, you know, outside with him. You know, he was sitting outside with a couple of other people, and he was rolling a blunt. So I was like, damn, okay, all right. So we get out there, and, you know, I'm sipping my beer. We're having good conversation. We're just getting to know each other. I was asking where my other friend was. I'm like, where is J-Dog, you know? And mind you, we're talking about C-SPAN, right? So I'm talking to C-SPAN. I'm getting to know C-SPAN, you know? And he was like, oh, you know, J-Dog, you know, he's not going to come. I guess, you know, something came up, but, you know, it's all good. You know, you're more than welcome to chill, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, okay, C-SPAN, all right. And so we're just talking. We're getting to know each other. You know, my other friend ended up, you know, having to go. Something came up with him too. So I'm just thinking, what the fuck, you know? But anyways, I really wasn't paying attention at that point. I was talking to C-SPAN. So like I said, we're getting to know each other, and, you know, we're having good conversation. It's kind of like we already knew each other. And this is where, you know, a couple of hours go by, you know, a couple people left, and, you know, it was just getting to the point to where it was just a couple of us out in the backyard. And so I remember after a while, I ended up heading back home, and we had already exchanged numbers at this point, and your girl is giddy as fuck. I was like, yes, bitch, yes. You know, so I was freaking out, because I didn't think, I was just like, wow, this is like my dream guy. You know, he's sexy as fuck. You know, I'd be down for him to clap these cheeks. And so, you know, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to play it cool, you know, and usually I'm like the pursuer, and that's not very feminine, but that's, you know, I've always been a tomboy, so, you know, I've kind of grown out of that a bit, but I played it cool with C-SPAN. So at this point, we're just texting, you know, we're not really talking on the phone like that. We're still getting to know each other, and it just seems like this person was perfect for me. Mind you, I had just gotten out of a pretty turbulent relationship with someone that I was actually still living with. It was really an awkward situation, but that was a person that I was living with when I had first left, you know, my abusive home. So at this point, I wasn't even worried about the guy that I just got out of a turbulent relationship with. I was just like all up in C-SPAN's grill and shit, you know, but in a cool way, right? So we're talking back and forth, and, you know, we start making plans, you know, because we enjoyed each other's company so much, we wanted to see each other again. So, you know, we scheduled a meet up one weekend, and when I get there, once again, it wasn't as many dudes, it wasn't as much of a sausage fest as it was the first time when we met, but the second time around, it was maybe about 4 or 5 other guys there. And of course, we're smoking, we're chilling, and this time, you know, after about an hour or so, we make our way to his bedroom. And of course, his other friend, we'll call him Hazel Eyes. I'll be nice, you know, we'll call him Hazel Eyes. So Hazel Eyes was sitting, you know, kind of across from me and C-SPAN. And mind y'all, you know, they're homeboys, you know, and so Hazel Eyes was trying to take a shot at me. And mind y'all, I'm still trying to play it cool, so I'm like, you know, I don't want to come right out and say, you know, that I like this guy so soon, you know, but Hazel Eyes was all like, so when you gonna give me your number? I know you want it just as bad as I do. And I looked at him like, and so I politely just like curved his ass. I was like, I'm sorry, I gotta be honest, I'm not really interested. I'm actually interested in someone else at the moment. So, and I looked over at C-SPAN and I think that he understood that obviously I'm interested in him. So I don't know if that was a test or not, or if that was organic, but either way, I just breezed on by, And so I guess he was feeling some type of way. And I guess he was embarrassed for getting curved in front of his homeboy. So he got up and left, with the tail between his legs, and I'm just kind of like awkwardly still sitting there with C-SPAN. And it was just me and him. So I'm just like, what should I do? And so we're watching TV for a little bit and we're just chilling. And then he decides, let's roll something up, and let's go out there, because he didn't want to leave his homeboy hanging, which I completely understood, And so he makes his way towards the door and he's moving slowly. And guys, what I'm about to tell y'all, I do not normally do this, right? But as he was making his way towards the door, I just got this feeling like, girl, you need to kiss him and claim him right now. Like while you have this moment, just do it. And I was so nervous, you guys. My heart was like, boom, 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 boom. Like I could just, like it was building up, the nervousness, the anxiety, and like the fear of like putting the Mac down, return of the Mac, da, 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 return of the Mac, da, 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 and so I was like, okay, when you do this, you gotta fucking go full throttle. So I grabbed his hand because he was in front of me and he was making his way towards the door, and I stopped and he turned around because he was like, okay, she got my hand, she ain't walking forward, what's going on? So he turns around and I look in his eyes, deep in his eyes like this, like, and I just let go and I kissed him. And he kissed me back. And I was just like, oh my God, this is fucking happening, bitch. Like, wow. So I'm on cloud nine. I didn't even need to smoke the blunt, bitch. I was just floating, and from then on, basically, we got together, and the beginning was amazing. It was beautiful. It was lovely. But mind you, I was still staying with my ex because I didn't have anywhere else to go at the time. I wasn't working, you know what I mean? I was still 16, 17 years old. And, the person I was staying with, they didn't have any worries. I didn't have to pay rent. So hell yeah, I was chilling. I was good, But there came a point in time where C-SPAN ended up going to work with his uncle supposedly and went out of the city. And this is kind of where certain red flags started to come up, but I was wearing my rose-colored shades that I didn't see that they were flags, like red flags, So he goes to he was in a different city. He was with his uncle, and by this time, the texting wasn't on the same level as it was before. Like, I started noticing that. He would tell me he would call me and then he wouldn't. So at this point, this is where I'm starting to get a little nervous. And one night, I was really upset. He told me he'd call me. He wasn't really answering my texts or calls, and I was thinking, okay, I understand that you're busy, but it doesn't take but a couple of seconds to shoot somebody a phone call or shoot someone a text and say, hey, this and this is going on, And this was still a fairly new relationship, so I'm not wanting to come off clingy either. So I was taking a step back, but I was still feeling slighted, So one night, like I said, I was upset and I got drunk. Sloppy drunk, bitch. I was gone. And I will admit right here, right now, that I was torn between this new relationship and my ex, because we were still living together. But the way that situation ended, and let's give him a name. We'll call him Archangel Michael. Okay, we'll just call him Archangel Michael. And so Archangel Michael was like, I thought that he was my first love, like ever. I was very young when we met. I was 16. He was in his 30s. So, you know, sometimes I do like him older, you know. And so I was torn because at this point I was like, I don't know if I should keep pushing for this new relationship. I felt like I was on cloud 9 with this guy, with C-SPAN. Now I'm still living with Archangel Michael and he's there. You know, we have history, you know, and C-SPAN is not really giving me any attention at all like he was in the beginning, right? And it happened so suddenly, so it was just weird to me, you know, and that's why I started thinking, oh God, something's going on. And so I confided in Archangel Michael about this. And like I said, I was sloppy drunk and I had invited another friend of mine over and we were all drinking. And I'm going to admit right here, right now, that we did some things. Okay, I'm going to just leave it like that. So we all did some things. And please don't fucking be in the comments judging me because fuck y'all. I do what the fuck I want to do. So anyways, the next morning, after all that went down, I admit I felt horrible because all I could think about was C-SPAN and I didn't know how to express my disappointment with like the lack of communication and him telling me he'd call me and not doing it, and it just felt like broken promise after broken promise, and like I was being pushed to the side and I felt like something was going on. And so being young and dumb, you know, I acted impulsively rather than, you know, processing it and making decisions from there, not from a drunken place. So I was honest with C-SPAN when he got home finally, and this was maybe about a week or so after what took place during that drunken debacle. And so I told him the truth. I confessed. And I told him that I was drunk, and I told him that I wasn't going into it with the intention, like I didn't invite my friend over with the intention of, you know, doing what we did. It just happened. And I was drunk. I don't remember most of it, only parts. And I just thought that he should know, you know, because he, you know, I showed him some marks on me and he was just like, wow. And so I could tell that he was taken aback by it, but I didn't want to start off that way by hiding something and lying about it. So, and in hindsight, which is always 2020, you know, I'm thinking, well, goddamn, you know, how you begin a relationship is how it ends. And unfortunately, when we get to that part, you'll see why I say that. But I thought by being honest, we could clear the air. He could decide whether he wants to be with me or not. And he decided to tell me that he wanted me to move in. And mind you, he was staying with his mom. You know, that was her house at the time. And, you know, from then on, things were a little bit rocky from there on his end. Let's say about 6 months into the relationship, you know, I had already met his family. You know, during Thanksgiving and Christmas, I met a couple of ex-girlfriends that were still coming over for some reason, which that didn't make me feel comfortable at all. I already met his friends, as stated before, and, you know, over time, it started off a little bit rocky with them, like almost as though they didn't want us together. There was a situation where I met his grandmother, and we'll call her Senora. So Senora was making comments behind my back after we met during Thanksgiving, and it was of the skin complexion type of subject matter. And so obviously that was a major issue. Then the family started to get involved. There was more gossiping. I noticed more and more that his, C-SPAN's friends were liking me. They wanted to clap them cheeks. And so, I'm not trying to brag or toot my own horn or any of these things. This is just real shit. And I think that he saw that too. And I think in the back of his mind, he was thinking about what I had told him. So it was a very blurred type of scenario. So fast forward to about a year after all that and dealing with the family and gossip and all this stuff. And, one of his cousins wanted to be with me because I actually met his cousin before I met C-SPAN. So, because we had a lot of mutual friends. So that was weird. There was a lot of tension on his end, and we'll call his cousin Big Country. Big Country will know who he is when he hears this, if he hears this. Hey, Big Country. And I'm not gonna lie, I liked Big Country too for a time there when we had first met, but it never went anywhere. And I ended up meeting C-SPAN, a little bit after meeting Big Country, and that's how that whole thing came about. And I went to high school actually with one of his other cousins, and we'll call him Rai, right? So it was weird how everything just fell together. But as you can imagine, it sparked a lot of drama because a lot of the people that we both knew went to my high school. Or it was, family members of his. So I started noticing, fast forward a year, I started noticing that his anger issues started to become more and more of a problem. Whenever I would try to express my emotions to him about something that he's doing, instead of doing like what I did in the beginning and not saying anything, trying to play it cool, I decided, I am I used to be a chronic suppressor. And during that time, I was trying to work through that. And so I would try to express myself and try to come from a place of calm and express to him what he used to do when he would tell me he would call and he wouldn't do it, or, where he wouldn't stand up for me, with his family members, calling me out of my name, gossiping, putting me down, interjecting in the relationship. He wouldn't stand up for me, and I would tell him how hurt that would make me. He would call me out of my name, call me a B word, call me, a whore, all these different things in front of his friends whenever I would try to, again, express myself from a place of calm. There were times where, no one was around, his mom wasn't home. He would break my things whenever I would try to walk away from a situation, or whenever I would just try to diffuse the situation by not engaging. He would punch holes in, one time he punched a hole in a television, this old school flat screen that I had while I was trying to play a video game. I was playing Intelligent Cube, and I just decided, every time this happens, he always, then he starts using this thing where he'll get upset that I'm hurt rather than trying to help me not be hurt. And so I really didn't realize that that was a manipulation tactic that narcissists use, nor did I even know what a narcissist was at this time. I didn't even realize that I had narcissistic parents around this time. So you can imagine, coming from an abusive home, I thought this was normal. He would tell me that he wouldn't do it anymore. There were times where he would punch holes in the wall. There were times where he'd broken my items. Then he would feel sorry about it and apologize and pay for it. For example, he broke my laptop screen about I don't know how many fucking times. If I was looking at it rather than looking at him, he would throw my phone. He would just throw these explosive tantrums. And his mom would come home. She would see the holes in the walls. And there were times where he would get in my face. When I would try to go to another room and shut the door, he would you know, try and push his way through. And when he did, he would get in my face. I felt like I was being cornered. And I remember I used to tell him, you can't get in my face like that, and you can't corner me like that, you know, because I come from an abusive home where I couldn't defend myself, and where these, you know, where I've been through stuff like this. He would spit in my face sometimes, and there were times where he full on hit me. There were times where he had ripped my hair out of my scalp because we were arguing in the car, and he would do these dangerous things while we were driving if the argument was happening while he was driving, you know, just different things like that. And there were times where we would fight and he would do these things, and then I guess it was like a good excuse for him to go party with his friends, and he wouldn't answer his phone for days. He would completely ignore me, but I would see him posting pictures of him being at, you know, parties, and, you know, he's hanging out with his homeboys, and it was like, it turned really ugly really fast. And I swear I tried to break up with this man hundreds of times, and I would end up feeling bad because I really wanted to make it work. And I even tried to get Archangel Michael to try and mediate because I didn't really have any family support. I didn't know who else to go to about these things, and they hated each other, you know, but Archangel Michael put that pride aside and decided to try and help, even though he's my ex as well, you know. And so that's the kind of relationship that we had. We were still friends, and I don't think that C-SPAN like that either, but that was my support system at the time. And so around this time, I felt unwanted. I felt undesired. I felt like I could never get out how I felt, so I would just stuff it down. And around this time, this is where the drinking started to escalate. It got to the point to where I was taking pills, I was rolling, I was going out a lot more, I was going and clubbing, and that was my way of releasing. Although I wasn't really releasing anything, it was just compounding the problem. And so I just felt like we were growing further and further apart. I think that even he noticed that I shut down more and more over time because of the explosive anger, and because of the fact that I could never express myself. His mother would also try and get in the middle, and it seemed like she would egg some things on. He would even get in her face and would slam things down, and, you know, again, these explosive tantrums. And at the time, again, I was very young, and I, again, have been through an abusive home, so I stayed. I didn't think that I was worthy of genuine love. I didn't even really know what that was either, so this is a classic case of looking for love in the wrong places. And then I started to drift more and more, and at this time I was getting a lot of attention on my Facebook page, and I never stepped outside of the relationship, you know, since I had told him from the beginning what had happened when I was still living with my ex. And at this time I was already living with C-SPAN, so he knew where I was at all times. And I remember he saw some messages from some guys flirting with me and telling me, you know, they thought I was attractive and, you know, wanting to see me, and I would respond. I would engage. It made me feel beautiful. It made me feel desired. I got the attention that I felt like I wasn't getting. I just felt wanted, and I didn't feel that way with C-SPAN anymore. And so I engaged. Was it the right thing to do? No. But that was what I did at the time. And he saw it and he was upset about it, and I told him it wouldn't happen again, and it just became a cycle where he would tell me that he wouldn't call me out of my name again, he wouldn't break my things anymore, he wouldn't hit me anymore. And we were both getting physical at this point, because whenever I would be cornered or struck or pushed or whatever, I would retaliate, and this was equally unhealthy, equally toxic. And I guess it was just a case of finally being able to stand up for myself, but I should have left at this point. Again, mentally, emotionally, and especially concerning my self-esteem, these were not up to par at all. And so I continued to stay, and I continued to put up with it. Now, around this time, as things continued to, escalate further, there was one argument that I remember, and he had called the police because he wanted me to leave, or maybe he wanted to leave with his homeboys and go do their thing without me knowing it. I'll never know. But he called the police came, they talked to us both, told us that we had to leave the property for 24 hours and that we couldn't contact each other. Well, unfortunately, because it had happened so spur of the moment, at the time, my phone was dying. I couldn't contact anyone because of that. Literally, it was like at 3%, and I had nowhere to go. I was just going to be stuck outside. So I was trying to get back in the house a couple of times. The first time it didn't work out. They caught me. And so I gave it a little bit more time before I tried again to try and get my phone charger. At this time, I saw one of the police cars. I guess they were sitting and watching the whole time, and they sped up to the driveway as I made my way inside, but before I could get inside the house, the police did see this. Our next door neighbor, she was known for popping them Zans, and mind you, that was not the intention of me going back to the house. Again, I was trying to get my phone charger so I could charge my phone somewhere and call somebody to pick me up so I had somewhere to go. And so I remember that next door neighbor, she walked up to me because I guess she saw that I was running up to the house, and she saw the police too. She still proceeded to put one Zan in my hand. And at this time, like I told you guys, I was already doing my thing, but I was just I was going there for a different reason, and it caught me off guard. She put it in my hand, and I immediately ran inside. I shut the door and locked it, and I was calling C-SPAN to tell them, please just tell them that I already called you and asked if it was okay to go to the house. Please just tell them that you already gave the okay so I don't get in trouble. And I was freaking out at this time. I had never been to jail. I'd never been in trouble with the law. And so I was freaking out. And so he said that he would talk to her, which I didn't even think that he would do that, but surprisingly he did. And I just remember the police officer saying, come outside or you'll be arrested for criminal trespassing. I wasn't thinking about what was in my hand. I wasn't thinking clearly at all. I was scared. I felt trapped because I was hiding in the backyard at this point, and I was scrambling, just trying to get out of what could potentially happen with me going to jail by calling C-SPAN and telling what was going on. And so I ran outside, and after she said that, and I told her that I had permission to be in the house. And I just remember she told me to put my hands on the hood of the car. And I still had that Zan in my hand, and I told her the truth. I said, look, that lady that you saw come up to me, she's the one that put it in my hand. And I had no intention of taking it. This is why I have it. I don't even care if you take it, just take it. I was just coming for a charger. I had already called C-SPAN and he said it was okay for me to be here. She then proceeded to tell me, or assume rather, that that was the reason why I went to the house, which wasn't the truth. So then she proceeded to tell me that she was going to teach me a lesson and she was going to take me to jail. C-SPAN came to the house as this was all going down, and I told him what happened, and he just, it didn't really look like he had that much sympathy for my situation. I mean, he was the one that called anyway for no reason. Nobody, at that point, nobody was getting hurt. You know, for once, things didn't get to that point, but he wanted me to leave and I refused. And so that was his way of getting that. But unfortunately, I ended up getting charged for that one Xan. And in retrospect, I really wish I would have just popped it. But I don't even know if it would have changed anything. So when I got out of jail, you guys, I found out that one of these chicks, and we'll call her Thoughtbot. So Thoughtbot, I found out Thoughtbot not only lived in the neighborhood, but she ended up going to the house to hang with C-SPAN and his homeboys. He claims nothing happened. She claims nothing happened. I don't believe that. To be continued. Here's a sneak peek into part 2. But again, I stayed. Things proceeded to get worse. We ended up getting into harder drugs around this time.